In the meantime, we will just take your indulgence to adjust the props on stage just before our prof comes on board and speaks to us. All right, and so we can now hear the wonderful, brilliant, as always, the thoughts of Professor Wale Soyinka. Briefly, please let us recognize the presence of Mrs. Rabiat Fawehimi Morakio of the very illustrious GANI FAWEHINMI family. You're welcome.
Thank you very much. I told you that towering figure that I admitted to being always slightly intimidated in the presence of the law. No matter in what configuration, whether as NBA, sorry. I beg to say this. There is something about the institution of justice in any form, which I believe rightly, commands the attention of most of us. Because for me, some people think it's religion, but the law is the foundation of philosophy. It is human search for wisdom, equity, and equilibrium in relationship with other human beings as we find the very phenomenon of existence. So, representing justice today, Your Worship, sir, Chairman, President of the NBA, my colleagues, friends, it's wonderful to be back in this hall to address you briefly. And in fact, it's brought back so many memories. It's just opened up my normally photographic memory, which I recall things vividly. Because this hall is one of our favorite meeting places in the life and death struggle against that marvelous ruler known as Sani Abacha. And we pretend that we were meeting somewhere else to throw off the heavies, the security. Usually we booked this hall and would meet behind closed doors where we plotted his downfall and efficiently as we could. It's also brought back memories of course, late brother, my guru, who is now my senior in the world of the ancestors, the many shenanigans, legal predicament we all went through recently in this nation. GANI FAWEHINMI, the late GANI, when he formed the expected, or at least his lieutenants expected, that this party was the most natural party for me to support. People are always finding me, they're always informing me which party and which candidate I'm supporting. I'm always the last to know. But I know, of course, what the historic truth is. When GANI started on his party, after his titanic battle against some sit-tight, quote-unquote, Democrats, who closed the political space to the point of strangulation of the progressive forces of the nation, it was GANI who fought. He led a fight for the rest of us to at least attempt to contribute to the political health and progress of this nation. And of course, in the process, he had in fact already formed his own party, Conscience Party. Well, I have to tell them and to tell you, I said, GANI, I cannot be a member of the party. because we will fight all the way. We will fight on principles towards the same goal. The goal will be the same, but I know we will fight. And I cited to him some instances, and of course, he agreed. I said, let me busy myself ensuring that you got your entitlement on the international forum. That's how we worked to get Ghani his Bruno Kreisky Award for Human Rights. It was for me far more fulfilling than to spend my time arguing with Ghani. So many issues, legal, non-legal, it didn't matter in the slightest. One very quick example. When Ghani joined us in Ife to obtain justice, that word again, for the late Only Adepeju, you may remember that name, he disagreed with the findings of the Commission of Inquiry. Naturally, we all did. He joined us on the march from all the way to Kudeti. He was there all the time. But then in the end, he brought out his round paper. And I remember this argument. In the process of stating why it was just erroneous to consider that that student died from electrocution as the police tried to make out. Ghani wrote, said, there was no, it rained the day before the incident, and everybody knows that when it rains, there is no NEPA. I said, you may be right in law, I'm not sure about that. But if you put that down, suppose it turns out there was a bit of down rainfall during the night, and that it dried up before that procession, that protest, which led to the death, we believe till today, from police brutality. I said, what are we going to do now? If the NEPA insists that there was a bit of rainfall, but it dried before morning. As a lawyer, how are you going to counter that? Well, to tell you the truth, till today, I cannot recall what arguments Ghani had to offer for leaving that particular claim within the brown paper. But I told him, if I am a justice and you bring this before me, I will tell you that NEPA, as you know, creates darkness all the time, and therefore they command the forces of darkness, and therefore they can command the forces of rainfall through our traditional revelries and so on. What are we going to do? This argument lasted, I don't remember how many weeks, off and on, off and on. But that was the nature of my relationship with Ghani. And I would always thank him, even posthumously, for opening up the space of politics, of intellectual exchanges, and constantly playing the role of pro bono publico on issues that touch the lives of every one of us in this community. But there's another aspect to my declining to join this project. I bring that up for multiple purposes, but the major one relates to our recent political travails. As I came in today, I'm afraid I have to rewrite my latest contribution to political debate and socio-political debate. It's coming out in a short while. In fact, I postponed it to be able to accommodate this encounter. I'll have to flesh it out a bit because I remember so many things. One of them, of course, was the inauguration of my own political party, the Democratic Front or the People's Federation. I'm sure you remember that. The inauguration, the first one, took place right in this hall. I've forgotten that. As I was coming in, I recollected the entire meeting. I remember which group from the North sat in that area. I remember representatives of the labor movement there who came as observers. Oh, I distinguish, by the way, between labor movement and Labour Party. Hope you understand that. particularly the women's associations, and everything about that event. And it is at that inaugural meeting that I renamed that party for popular purposes. Renamed it the Zero Kobo Party, because that's all we had. Well, we wanted anyway to make a showing on the new space created by Zero Kobo Party. And I recollect very well whom we nominated, the shortlist we nominated as our presidential flag bearer. One was Olisa Bakova. Another was Pat Utomi. Olisa we didn't approach immediately because we learned that he was leaning towards something which was called the third force at the time, which was being midwifed by a former president, the one who never lied for a third term in office. And so we felt slightly uncomfortable with my favorite person, who was Olisa Bakova. In the end, we settled on Patutomi at the first convention, the open convention, which took place outside the National Theatre in Igbo. Yeah, Olisa Bakova happens to be an Igbo. Patutomi, also an Igbo. I narrate and point out that distinction, addressing some internet trolls, creatures of fabrications, imputations of sometimes the most astonishing, mindless stuff, who have now decided to label me an Igbo-phobe. Me, of all people. I'm supposed to hate the Igbo. It's narrated in, the forthcoming publication, to the launching of which I have the greatest pleasure in inviting all of you. The title is Baiting Igbophobia. It's in my intervention series. We'll announce the date. So I just mentioned that to illustrate the many obstacles to human understanding and collaborative efforts in the transformation of society, of which, of all the institutions that I know of, the so-called social media has become the most culpable. We're relying on you, the Bar Association, you who know the law, and who know what remedies are available, to save this nation from the violence that the social media has become. It's becoming impossible. There's something I believe called identity theft also. Is it recognized in the Constitution? I don't remember. In the law, in the protocols, I don't remember. But if it's not there, please help us to put it there. So at least we can all answer our Father's name and be responsible for whatever is put out. And, finally, a very brief word on the topic, which I'm not going to go into deeply. I've always asked myself the question, way back since the experience of this nation, what is it that leads to the section of any so-called national entity wish to secede? What are the factors? What are the avoidable ones? And what are the unavoidable ones? Well, I can only go by personal experience. I've had at least 3 or 4 occasions when I felt that I cannot, with any peace of mind, continue to be a member of the so-called Nigerian nation. One of them was when a woman called Sadiat, I believe, was sentenced to be buried up to the neck and stoned to death. I was in Italy, I remember, on that occasion, delivering a lecture at the university, and I began to look for a new place to terminate, to continue and end up my existence. I felt I could not continue to be a member of any community which is so cruel and so unjust. The man goes free in the case of adultery, but the woman, however, is buried up to the neck and stoned to death. If that had taken place, I would have passed a long time. The second one was my sense of total impotence and bewilderment when the structures of law and justice were so manipulated, so debased, so just rubbished. During the trial of Ken Saro-Wiwa and his companions, eco-warriors, I call them also, that even lawyers like GANI had to withdraw because they did not want to lend their name to what was going to be judicial butchery. And I said to myself, if those men were handled, I would leave, I would not even return to this nation. I was away at the time when the sentence was passed. I was in Australia and when it was carried out. And I said, well, time to move on. So I made up my mind to secede. Well, if an individual, to me, can renounce, can be pushed to a point where he renounces his nationality, and there's another, and there's another, and there's another, it amounts to an act of secession. We're going to look for an uninhabited island somewhere and found a new community where we can live with our conscience and progress, reintegrate ourselves into the rest of the world as best as we could, or else just live kind of a monastic existence into which we can bring people of like minds, like sensibilities, like passions, like imagination. After the second, there are one or two others, but this in particular is very important. The first in particular is more critical in relation to our topic. And it is this. One of the items, in fact, the top on the list of items was the plight of one Mubarak Bala, who's been in jail, going now for 3 years, sentenced in another part of this country for alleged blasphemy. I want to know from this association, with this gathering, where in our Constitution it says that any citizen can be sentenced for blasphemy, sentenced to prison. And he's there, he's still awaiting. I think there's been an appeal to the Supreme Court, but I believe that that process should have been short-circuited long ago. To make matters worse, a woman called Rhoda Jubat was similarly sentenced for criticizing the extrajudicial murder of Deborah, another citizen of this place. She was released thanks to the effort of the Human Rights Association just a few weeks ago. Look at how long she spent in prison. That a human being is sentenced for condemning a criminal act, an inhuman act, and yet, I'm sorry, I'm asking where were you, all of you, when this happened? I didn't know, but I have an excuse at least from teacher side. But you were here, and this woman was sentenced, and it took the efforts of the Human Rights Association, finally, after several months, to get her out of jail for defending the law, for insisting on justice. There's something criminally wrong about this case. And when I spoke to the President, I called his attention to an open letter by Mubarak Bala to the President after his inauguration. Small pamphlet to which I added preface and a poem. During that meeting, it was the first writer. He'd never heard of it, even though I handed it over to somebody close to him who promised that he would make sure it was handed to him personally. However, that's one individual. What about the media? The media, I beg your pardon. Did they report it? Because when I came out, they asked me, what did you discuss? And I said, the 7-point agenda. He said, the top of the list was the issue of Mubarak. How many of our media carried that item? No, instead, they were playing sensational useless argument with the coalition just said he always gives each incoming president 1 year before he makes any comment. Why? And so, I mean, garbage. Most critical part of my interview with the press when I came out of the meeting was the issue of human rights, or the unlawful, illegal, and criminal detention of an individual in prison. The media did not well on that side. Is it any wonder that the social media is what is taking over the narrative and community information and opinion in this nation, when even our print media doesn't think that kind of situation properly attention should occupy the headlines for the next few weeks. So ultimately, once again, I have to rely on you members of the temple of justice, because I think that is the expression, the temple of justice. You just have to wake up to and pick up the slack where it exists in other institutions or informal voluntary institutions of justice in the country. You have to rely on your indefatigable and inexhaustible store of wisdom and commitment. You have to help us educate society that it is not one society when you have different gradations of law, different gradations of sensibilities, what's that institution, that entity called justice, and therefore eliminate one of the critical causes why units within the national entity choose to secede. It is issues like that which after a while attains a critical mass, a momentum of its own, in which people say, listen, let's get out of this mess. I'm from an own community. Thank you very much.